Welcome back to another director's commentary for One with Wolfpack Football. I hope you've been enjoying these installments so far. I've had a lot of fun going back and reliving some of the moments, so it's been pretty cool. Anyway, so this episode is entitled Competition. So here we go. Here is Season 1, Episode 4 of One with Wolfpack Football. I love playing around with the music I use. And I get my music from a lot of different places. I can get it from a stock music library. I can get it from pop charts, basically, depending on what organization has rights to it. Because the way the show works is the platforms that it airs on, those platforms pay licensing fees. So most of the time, we're able to use some pretty good music to fit the mood.
As a player, that's your goal. Is when I walk out on that field, I practice the best I've ever practiced.
Part of the struggle sometimes is coming up with unique ways to start every episode. And granted, I made 90 of these things, so I don't necessarily know that there were 90 different unique openings. But depending on that theme, depending on what I have, at least the energy, the feel of it, I like to mimic what the rest of the episode is going to be or what the theme of the episode is going to be. So with competition, I wanted things to be more upbeat. I wanted them to be a little more active. One of them, not necessarily hard hitting, but just have a bit of a sense of action, I guess, a sense of movement, a sense of momentum. So yeah, and with dynamic, with telling these stories dynamically, I know I talk a lot about editing, because that's one of the strengths I have in my little toolkit. But when that carries over to just storytelling in general, keeping things dynamic is key. Like I've said before, not always having the same feel throughout one thing, keeping things varied. Unless, for social media hits, like if you're just making a quick 20-second video, like go ahead and just make that 20-second video feel one way for the entire 20 seconds. But for long form storytelling, you gotta switch it up a little bit. So yeah, competition. Here we go. That graphic is, I've talked a little bit about the After Effects work I put into this, and I'm not an After Effects artist at all, but that little opening with competition comes up. In the background is like 2 layers of trees with different opacities and different sizes, different scales, to mimic kind of walking through a forest, add some motion to it. Oh man, that is really red. Yeah.
There's 2 competitors, I think.
I love a good establishing shot, just like setting up. Oh yeah, we haven't been here. We haven't been in that building since we started this show. It's the Closed King Indoor Practice Facility. It's AstroTurf. I think AstroTurf is a brand, but it's a fake field, fake grass. But the team uses this facility as like extra practice space. They use it when they are playing an opponent who has that fake turf. They also play it when it rains a little too hard, just so the players can concentrate on the things at hand.
It ain't good enough, man. Compete.
Oh man, one of my favorite coaches I've ever covered, Aaron Henry. He's now the defensive coordinator at the University of Illinois. He just got that promotion, so congrats to coach.
I think some guys are just born with it, Some guys are just born with that competitive nature, and it starts when you're in grade school, when you're playing freeze tag or it,
I think one of the reasons why I enjoyed covering him was he was a little closer to my age. He's younger than me, actually. So there was like, I don't know, a generational connection to it.
How many books can you write?
And also just this guy's motivation.
So I think we all, to a degree, have a competitive nature.
It's just something to admire. He actually became, throughout the run of this first season, he became kind of a social media star, YouTube star, because of his motivational pregame speeches that we started covering in depth, I think around this episode maybe. People started loving it.
guys are gonna come free. So you gotta go like you gonna block it. Come on, Jay. Come on, Jay. Good. Get off the ball. Get off the ball. Good. Good. Good.
Again, with music, I don't know if you can hear it underneath there, but
Yep.
Whether it's
just some really mellow post rock. For some reason, just like for me, tugs at heartstrings. And he could be talking about anything. Like he's just talking about characteristics of an ideal player, but like you have this music underneath it that's kind of like pulling, you know, those little threads of your heart to get you engaged. And then we switch it up. A little more active track here, a little more with more of a rhythm.
And you notice that from that guy immediately. Like that's like I like this kid.
Gotta keep things interesting. A lot of coaches say the same thing. No matter who they are, no matter what sport they coach, no matter what position group they happen to specialize in, a lot of the coaches end up saying the same thing to the point where they get considered platitudes with almost a negative connotation. But there is value in what they're saying to these players. Like looking for guys that are tough. You know, that's like a duh. You know, like they say it and we know it, but they mean more than just like, oh, this dude can lift X amount of pounds. Like, oh, this dude's mentally tough. Like, oh, he had a bad rep, but he's going to shake that off and go back in a second time and crush it.
Everybody wants to have the best defense, the best offense, you know, be the best recruiter, you know, be the best teacher, you know, and part of that is just competition.
So one of the things that I notice people,
your players in general in your room,
a lot of people talk about editing out filler words like likes and ums. And for the most part, I agree. Because we're all prone to just making noises with our mouths while we're thinking. And it sounds like, and that's just natural. But when someone is trying to convey a message and that message itself is inherently very valuable, some of those filler words get in the way of it. So I do my best to try and eliminate as much as I can without detracting from a person's natural speaking pattern. So like a lot of times when you see B-roll, I might be editing that person's speech a lot. I might be editing out a lot of those filler words. I might be rearranging sound bites to make a more cohesive sentence.
When they were running over, I thought they were going to give me a chest bump or something. And all of them just
yeah, that's right.
And Coach Dorn was standing to me. He was standing next to me one time. And he kind of.
I will come back to my point, but this was just really cool.
I think being a really
talking about Coach Henry challenged the defense to get him the ball, and they did, and then they brought it to him on the sideline. Luckily, we were there to. We had enough angles that we were capturing it, so it was pretty cool. There I go again. But anyway, yeah, covering filler words. Don't want to detract from natural speech patterns. So if you don't see someone talking but you hear them, chances are that's being edited. If you do see them, I try to let their natural speech kind of come out unhindered, full of ums and everything. It's Kelvin Harmon, currently with the Washington Commanders, if I remember correctly.
My brother, he was always faster than me. So growing up, I was competed to beat him in a race. So it was just like always competition between us. You know, I grew up with like my cousins, my brothers.
I messed up on
Madden and stuff, or just playing in the
on interviewing him. I think from a visual perspective.
Make fun of him, so it was like it's a sad feeling to lose.
So in one of my camera tutorial videos, I talk about what focus is and how to adjust and achieve focus. And so basically, I believe what happened was Kelvin sat down in his chair, leaned back. I achieved focus with the camera. And then once the interview actually started, he actually leaned forward a little bit. And so that way he was out of focus and I just didn't think about it. Or maybe one of the interns or production assistants was actually monitoring the camera as I was conducting the interviews. And that's a part of a learning process. Like I should have known better from a focus standpoint, but also like teaching people who want to work in this industry more about how things work. I needed to do a better job of explaining what was going on.
That was okay.
That was perfect. I feel like being a competitor is just like my biggest attribute.
I love
I just like compete everything.
These moments that almost exist outside of practice. Like Kelvin just messing around with other wide receivers. And Kelvin's the one throwing passes. Like That's just fun to see. It
just like that
does a
competition
good,
I got
I think, a good job of conveying that these guys love this game beyond, what it could possibly do for their livelihoods or careers. That is Coach Rendrick Taylor. And yes, those are his real arms. They are massive. Very nice guy as well.
I'm always competing on every play. Like when the ball's in the air, it might look like it's out of my reach, but I always compete. Even sometimes if I don't get it, I always give it my.
He was a really good competitor.
Try to get the
Hell,
ball.
he still is a good competitor.
So I felt like if I was such a competitor, I probably would have quit.
That thing you take upon yourself to be the best in a moment.
Come on, bro. That's
Like go up against one dude and be like, I'm gonna be better than you,
That was a flick.
and then trying to achieve it.
That was a flick. What's the quote you live by? Live and you die. How that apply to football?
You're getting better, you're getting worse. You're getting worse, you're dying.
Nah, I know the depth chart.
Coach McDonald.
Everybody got
Now at Illinois, I think I mentioned that before, maybe.
You live and you die.
I love letting these moments breathe. Just not cutting away from something. Just letting a moment play out despite longer pauses. Longer pauses do not dictate awkward pauses. They just are natural long pauses where people are just together. Yeah. Paladins. I had to look up what a paladin was. It's like a holy warrior. Had never really heard that before outside of World of Warcraft for all you nerds. I'm in that group. It's cool. So here we're just vibing out. We're just listening to some chill, upbeat music, showing some pre-game atmospheric B-roll. Coach Doran tossing T-shirts to students.
Get the ball back. The only thing that matters, get the ball back, Chubb. Get the ball back. Arius, get the ball back.
This is when I started
Moorhead, get the ball
paying
back.
attention to what
Boom, get the ball
Coach
back.
Rendrick was doing
Only thing that
in
matters,
pregame.
Only thing. Let's start fast now, Red. Let's go.
Getting them hyped up, getting the defense hyped up.
Get in here, let's go. Get in here, let's go.
Do not adjust your screen. That is actually red. That's a very red room. No lights are on except for fluorescence in the very, very back of the room, and then this red light that encompasses the entire locker room before the team comes out. Oh, love a smoke shot. Love a run out shot. It's just cool, man. It just looks good.
First down and 10 for the 25. Here's a pitch around the right side.
All right, back to game action.
Lined up as a wingback, and the Pack's going to drop him for a big loss of about 3 yards near the right sideline.
More J-Mac music playing in the background.
Moorhead around the right side, turns the corner, 50-yard line into Pack territory.
My collaborator on all these docu-series that I made while at state. So with this edit, we let things play out a little bit more slowly. It's not go, go, go. It's more of let's try to edit this in a way where it feels like you're down there on the sideline. Granted, we cut to this high angle. Naheem refusing to go down like a boss. But as we made more of these, we tried to figure out, okay, what is the best way to help viewers feel like they're there in the moment, even if they happen to have attended the game. So yeah, stuff like this, celebrating touchdowns on the sidelines.
Samuels has grabbed it at the 40-yard line of Furman, and down he goes. He fakes to Steph Lewis. Now he'll fire.
Little,
For the end zone, wide open receiver, caught, touchdown. Touchdown state. It's Jubico Ramos.
Yeah. Looking at this edit now, I think it's a little slow. And I'm trying to remember why that might be. And it could be one of those things where this is not a game where we ran up the scoreboard. These are just moments that happen to happen in no particular at no particular pace, and we were just figuring out what the best pace was. The trouble with editing these game segments is that I literally have a couple hours to do it. And so sometimes I achieve what I'm going for, and sometimes I fall a little short. Sometimes I'm out of material, and sometimes I have to pad the game a little bit with moments that might not necessarily be interesting, but they're relatively adjacent to what we're talking about, and they fill time. Some of the most fun is capturing celebrations at the end of big plays. And one thing I really wish I would have done more of is the use of subtitles, because when I'm editing this, like, I know what they're saying because I happen to be there at the moment, and I'm like, oh, I don't need subtitles here. But the viewer, they haven't heard this 5 times or 7 times or whatever like that. So I have to take that into account and add some subtitles if some dialogue might not be comprehensible. This was kind of cool. I love, like, some of the stuff that goes a little bit underappreciated is capturing moments in between plays that's maybe set up the next play, or like string things together. So that play down to the 1 yard line, and then seeing Coach Doran call a timeout so they can score. That sequence of events is important. I think important to see, because it shows the thought that goes behind what's happening on the field. It's not just like, oh, do this play because it's good. You know, there's like the reasons behind stuff.
No mistakes. All right, no mistakes. We got no takeaways right now. Offense, we can stop for 1 time. We got 30 minutes. Nobody lets down. Finish on 2, 1, 2. Finish.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain the way this is going. There's Doug Shear. I think he's at Connecticut now. Yeah, looking at this again, definitely I edited this longer than it needed to be, but sometimes you got to do what you got to do. The voice you're hearing, for the most part, is Gary Hahn, voice of the Wolfpack. He is Tony Haynes is broadcasting partner. Tony's one of my fellow producers on this show. He works in radio. So every game, every football game, you'll hear Gary's voice. For half of the basketball show, you'll hear his voice. The other half of the time, you'll hear TV announcers, depending on if the game is home or away.
That's what I'm talking about, boo. Hey, where we at, boo? It's a moment I'm gonna let you shine, but we got the same amount of career.
I love a moment like that. Showing the relationships and personality between these players. It's just a lot of fun. There's Coach Henry getting animated. Contavious Street. I think he's with the Saints now. There we go. Looks like we did score a lot of points. There are very few individual games that I remember. Oh, I love these guys. This is a lot of fun. When you can show just people having fun, I feel like that's the most entertaining thing to see. It's people that are having fun and people that are good at something. And in this case, you get a little bit of both. Ooh, game ball. Oh, yeah, Sean Boone. There you go. Had that pick. That was a good one. Does chanting speech ever work? There's me in the back on the left, with a giant camera on my shoulder. I stopped using that camera either halfway through the season or at the end of the season, because I realized it was not cohesive for the look that we were going for on the show. And like I said, that comes with growth, figuring out what's the right thing to do. Using this show as an opportunity to personally get better at making this stuff was probably one of the most valuable things I took away from this experience, was figuring out what works, what doesn't work, and how can I get better.
Everybody on this team to understand something. All right. Earlier this week, I asked my players, "Are you in love with football?" I didn't really care to know the answer, but my question to you is.
So this was a little something different. I don't normally rewind.
It's changed my life. This is the only thing that matters.
I don't go backwards chronologically when I do this show, but hey man, when Coach Aaron Henry gives you great stuff, you got to use it in some aspect. And I felt like showing all of his pregame speech before the game, I felt like might have been just a little too much for a game segment. So why not end the show with that motivation, with that reflection of the theme of this episode, which is competition.
JJ Watt's story, that's just the reality of it. Everybody isn't going to the NFL, so how can I help?
Yeah, he went to the same university as JJ Watt. I think they were on the same team, at the same time. I think so. Don't quote me on that. If I'm wrong, please let me know.
That he's an asset to this society. We live in a day and age where, unfortunately, these young men, they can't make mistakes. They can't.
Coach Henry and a lot of folks gave me really good responses in interviews, as well as just really good
it's unfortunate.
access, sound bites, whatever.
Very unfortunate. And I know some of them
And
100%.
there's
it's always anticipated.
There's this saying that you're like, oh, it's gold. That's gold. That's really good stuff. I learned from documentarian Ken Burns that you shouldn't treat a subject's emotional response and emotional background as currency. The sentiment can still be, oh, what this individual provided for me was really great to have and know, but when you put kind of this monetary value on it, it makes it feel, it's just icky, it makes it feel like it's something that can be exchanged for something else. And I learned that probably halfway through producing this whole show. And that gave me a different perspective on the fact that you don't know what somebody's been through in order to have the outlook in it and the outlook they have. And so you have to take that, into account and just appreciate what they've been through and appreciate their responses. Thank y'all so much for watching today. You could have been anywhere, but you're here. If you have any questions about what you saw, if you have any comments, if you just want to get in touch, go ahead and leave something in the comments below, and I'll try to get back to you. If you're enjoying what you're seeing, please consider subscribing. It really would mean the world to me, so you can stay up to date on all the stuff I put out. And if you want to go a step further, check out the Patreon link in the description below to help further support some of the stuff that I make. Okay, anyways, thanks for coming, and I'll see you next time.